A professional counselor in the Dallas area is growing in popularity for his treatment methods.
How do you talk to kids about terror? And with social media and television, it's everywhere, and it's unavoidable for kids.
Rusty Lozano is the founder of the Center for Biofeedback and Behavior Therapy. He's also been nationally recognized for his work with brain mapping.
He's created a gym to work out the mind. His office features an obstacle course.
Rusty Lozano is a licensed professional counselor, helping children with headaches, with anxiety, ADHD, and more.
Here's where Lozano comes in. He teaches kids how to think their pain away with something called biofeedback.
A North Texas therapist is treating patients in this unconventional way.
We have Rusty Lozano who's joining us today. He's a licensed professional counselor.
He put together an unusual treatment for teenagers who are struggling with mental issues, except he's taking this now a step further.
Rusty Lozano, a leading therapist and pediatric biofeedback therapist based in Texas at the Center for Biofeedback and Behavior Therapy. And Rusty, thanks for being with us tonight.
Rusty Lozano, a father of 4 and also a professional counselor in Texas, says it's all about being a credible resource to your children.
The Therapy Hour with Rusty Lozano, your dedicated resource for mental health news, views, and tips you can use. Brought to you by the Center for Biofeedback and Behavior Therapy in Addison, Texas. And now, here's Rusty.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Therapy Hour with Rusty Lozano. Thank you for joining us. We have a really good topic today. Everybody that at some point in their life has experienced some sort of sleep disturbance. So whether it be that you're not able to sleep, or you are a light sleeper and you wake up early in the morning and you're not able to go back to sleep, or whether you wake up and like you roll over and you get on your cell phone and start getting on your Facebook and you're not able to get back to sleep, everybody experiences some degree of sleep disturbances. And so the sleep disorders, sleep hygiene, and requirements are something that sometimes we have to go seek out some help and get some guidance on. So we have 2 really incredible guests with us today. One is Dr. Mohsen Makbul. He's board certified in sleep medicine and child neurology, and he's also the medical director of pediatric sleep at the Sleep Institute in Plano. And then we also have Brooke West, PhD. She's the director owner of Hope Child and Family Center in Texas, and she's a child and adolescent play therapist. Welcome to the show. So what I'd like to start out with is just kind of reading a little bit about what the National Institute of Health says about sleep and how many people are affected. So according to the National Institute of Health, 50 to 70 million Americans are affected by chronic sleep disorders and intermittent sleep problems that can significantly diminish health and alertness, and then, of course, create safety issues. Untreated sleep disorders have been linked to hypertension, heart disease, stroke, depression, diabetes, and other chronic diseases. So let's start out with Dr. Brooke West, PhD. She's the director owner of Hope Child and Family Center in Texas. She's a child and adolescent play therapist, and she works with kids and adults on several different types of things. But sleep disorders can affect how a child interacts in the world. It can affect their behaviors. You see a lot of this with the patients that you work with at your center?
Absolutely. So I treat kiddos that are grieving divorce, loss of parent, siblings. During the grief cycle, sleep is super important and very difficult at the same time. Anxious kiddos have hard time going to sleep, staying asleep. They're irritable. And so I work a lot with parents in a nightly routine that can benefit the kiddo to not only fall asleep, but stay asleep. And
that sleep pattern, there's a lot of underlying issues that sometimes kids can't process. I see this a lot in my own clinic. Stress-related disorders, anxiety is a big one. And so when you have these little guys that are in there and their brains are consistently, they're rapid thinking. It's like they close their eyes, but the little projector in their mind doesn't shut down. And so it's like as if they're alert and fully awake, even though they've already been through the nighttime routine, they're covered, and they're laying in their room. And that can be really, really difficult. And so like what you're saying is that sometimes the there's a circumstance that can actually create some of these difficulties.
Right. So I talk with teenagers, young adults, and parents about emotional baggage that can impact sleeping. So emotional baggage is anything that the child is stressed about during the day, from academic performance, learning differences, things that are going on at home, extra stress with parent fighting, divorce, like I mentioned, grief. And so it's really important to kind of help the child process that emotional stress that they're having, so that when it's time to go to sleep, they can close their eyes and be more at peace and less stressed and anxious about the current events of the day and what's occurring in their life.
And with children, it can actually be really tough because what you're seeing with kids. Sorry, actually hit that button. What you're seeing with children, they don't have the same abilities to express themselves like we adults do. Like, I was just using the example the other day. I had a mom and a child at my office, and we were going over the evaluation. And I just administered a biofeedback evaluation, and he hooked her up to this machine measuring muscle tension, breathing, heart rate, galvanic skin response, and we run these trials. And so the one measure that showed a substantial amount of anxiety and or what's called autonomic arousal, but it's so purely associated to anxiety, was very high. And so I made the expression, I made the point to the kiddo to really identify to them that, what I've learned as an adult, and this is where I'm going to verbalize this to you, the things that we struggle with day to day, week to week, the trials that we have, the stressors that keep us up and really are difficult to overcome, they're gone just like that. Once we find a solution for it, and once we kind of overcome it, it's like it's just gone. And so you spend all this mental, emotional energy to try to readjust for that, or adapt to it, and it's really difficult because for kids, they're not able to really express that very well. And so then what ends up happening is they carry it into then the nighttime routine. And so you help them through a process in therapy to help these kids develop a way of expressing themselves. Can you tell us a little bit about how you do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a registered play therapist supervisor, and I work with kiddos starting at age 3. And play therapy is a way to allow smaller children that are less verbal and unable to sit on a couch and talk to us like traditional talk therapy looks like. And it allows them to use the toys as their words and play as their language. And so a play therapist is able to help a child who is less verbal and unable to identify their triggers and talk about their feelings as openly, be able to express how they're feeling, what their inner thoughts are, without coming out and verbalizing and saying it.
Gotcha. And that's a really helpful process because when kids are trying to go to sleep, they can't necessarily express, they can't come to terms with what they're feeling. And so when they have this session with you, they're able to kind of like evacuate or kind of dump some of this internalized intensity.
Absolutely. So it's helping them be able to express their inner world in a way that we can help them cope and deal with their own personal struggles.
And so let's talk about nighttime routine and what these kids are doing, like how we can help them to establish better sleep. So I have my own kids, and I know at times it's really difficult to get them to go to sleep, period, because they're up and they have so much energy and they're running around and making noise. And but then they just eventually do kind of go to sleep. But kids who are struggling, there's some things that we can do as parents to help them facilitate that sleep process.
Absolutely. So during parent consults, when I'm working with kiddos in play therapy, it's a one-on-one individual session with the child. But I always consult with the parents, especially if they're expressing concerns about the child having difficulty going to sleep or staying asleep. So some of the things that parents can do can help the child feel more relaxed at night. And I always say start early. That's the biggest thing that I've learned as a mom of a 4 and a 7-year-old is if I'm starting when it's really close to bedtime and they're acting super hyper and I'm stressed, exhausted, and ready to check out myself, it makes it an even more tense and stressful situation, and it seems like it takes longer to put them down. So I always stress starting early. Giving yourself and the children enough time to decompress, get away from all electronics, read, take a warm lavender bath. I even encourage clients to give their kiddos chamomile, hot tea with some warm milk and honey in it to kind of soothe them. And kiddos that have suffered, abuse, neglect, sexual abuse, it's also often recommended that melatonin helps them because it's an all-natural way of allowing them to be able to fall asleep and stay asleep.
Got it. Well, we're talking to Brooke West, and we're discussing sleep disorders, and we're talking about working with kids. We're going to take a commercial break, and we'll be right back after these messages.
You're listening to the Therapy Hour with Rusty Lozano, brought to you by the Center for Biofeedback and Behavior Therapy in Addison, Texas.
Hi, we're back, and we're talking to Dr. West. She's the director and owner of the Hope and Child Family Center in Texas. Brooke, what's your website?
Thanks for asking. It's www.hopecentertx.com.
Awesome. And she's an incredible guest, and we're talking about what parents can do to help their children with sleep disorders. And we all have them. And we all have them, maybe not chronically, but we do experience sleep disturbances. But for little ones, it can be really tough to do. And in a later segment today, we're actually going to talk about what adults can do and sleep disorders and the hygiene and the requirements from the physician, Dr. McBull. He will join us here shortly. But Brooke, when we left, we were talking about like chamomile and some things that parents can do in the nighttime routine. What else can we do? Is there something that we can do in the bedroom to help these kids kind of start to slow down their little minds?
Yeah, absolutely. I always encourage parents. A lot of kids wake up from noises or they can't fall asleep because there's too much rustling outside. There's a noise that they hear and it startles them, especially more anxious children get really scared at night when they hear different noises and they can't pinpoint what it is. So I like to use white noise in children's bedroom. I started out in my nurseries with white noise, and both of my kids still at 4 and 7 have white noise in their bedrooms to help them. It drowns out the outside sounds that can often startle and wake a child or keep them from falling asleep soundly. And I'm really big into essential oils right now, so my kids also get some lavender diffused in their room. Lavender helps to calm and uplift energy, and so I love to have that going. And the diffusers that I have actually have a nightlight on it, so it kind of helps the child know that that it's helping them calm themselves, and it provides some light for them to be able to see.
So they're not, maybe if they're afraid of the dark, they don't have to be in complete darkness. But also you're talking about bringing something in that's very soothing. I'm hearing more about essential oils these days and how people are using them. And you think about, like, somebody made the comment to me, just real quick, about essential oils and kind of, we take that for granted. But, you think about, like, the history of essential oils, and they've been around a long time.
Absolutely.
Frankincense, the whole story of the nativity, and it was used for quite a long time. So it's a really good concept. I like that, using essential oils. What about reading stories and maybe playing some background music? I know with some kids, one of the things that we recommend at our center for kids that have difficulty sleeping is we're addressing this from more of a neurophysiological perspective. Like we'll use background music that's actually more binaural sounds. And the music, it's actually really soothing, and it's actually designed to subliminally start to de-escalate the brain or stimulate like a lower frequency and of brain waves in the with their sleep cycles. And so there are a lot of different things that can be done. Do you ever recommend like reading stories? Does that help?
Oh, yes. We read a story every night, and we say what we're thankful for, and we pray together.